Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CMON live stream. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jeff Skinner, and today we are here to continue our journey into the world of DEGENESIS Clan Wars with a mid-campaign review. Campaign links, along with the other links we mentioned in the show, can be found over in the comments and in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for all the latest CMON news and updates. We have a lot to cover today, including a major reveal. So spoiler alert that there's going to be a reveal during the show. So let's dive right in by bringing out our special guests. First up is CMON's very own Kenneth.
Hey
Hello.
everybody! Yeah, Kenneth here from CMON. I'm the producer of the Genesis Clan Wars. I'm glad to see you in the chat today.
Yeah, always good to see you. We're doing it a little bit earlier than we normally do. And so hopefully a lot of people in your neck of the woods as well as in Europe are happier. It's a little bit earlier in their day.
Yeah.
Next up, we from our partners studio, SIXMOREVODKA, returning to the show is Liam Foley, and joining us for the first time is Renard Maupertuis.
Hey everyone.
Hello, SIXMOREVODKA clan. Good to have you back, Liam.
Good to be back. Yeah, super excited to go through everything we've got today. It's going to be a big one.
Yeah, we have a big show. I'm really excited about what we're gonna see today. And Renard, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Hi, very pleased to be here.
Excellent. Now,
to
Renard
meet you.
is the designer on DEGENESIS Clan Wars. He had been working. You've been working previously on DEGENESIS for a number of years, right? And you helped kind of work with Liam, I think, to combine the story
Yes.
with the mechanics.
We worked together the Genesis artifact with Kyle and a few people.
And then on Clan Wars, basically Renard puts all the blocks, he makes all the blocks, and then I put them all together in some sort of way. So
Yeah.
Renard is responsible for all of the actual good parts of the game. No, I'm kidding.
No, we cannot say this. No, I'm the engine guy. I have to make sure the engine is working, and then Liam do some artistic stuff and creative writing and do a thrilling campaign for you to play.
That's excellent. And what was that process like in terms of trying to balance the amount of story that was going into it to make sure that the mechanics themselves really complemented the fiction that was being created?
Yeah, it starts with the story first, what they want to say, what feelings they want to convey in the game, what emotions they want the players to live through during the game, and then I have to translate this into mechanics and rules. And I build some blocks. I do the opponents, the operatives, the rules, and then Liam use all those tools to make a good story and thrilling scenarios.
I mean, I want to say that even though I'm working on the game, I really appreciate the thought and design that goes into it. So, like, really, a round of applause to Renard for doing such a great game design. I'm a big fan of the game.
Thank you. It touches me because I am a beginner.
It doesn't show. It was really a great design. Sorry.
No, that's
oh,
go ahead. Sorry, Renard.
I like things simple, so and SIXMOREVODKA I like things elegant, so it works very well. We don't want to have useless things in the game. We just want things to go fast and good.
Fast and good. That's exactly the way I like my games. We have so many things to kind of cover today, and I think the first thing we should probably talk about is what's been revealed since our last show in the campaign. We have 2 daily reveals every day of new content that's included for all backers. And first up, I guess let's talk about the operatives.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure, yeah. So
Do we have them on the screen?
I'm waiting to see them pop up on screen. I love these models. They're so cool. Yeah, so these are the 3 operatives that have been revealed as part of daily so far, minus Steelbeam, who we had talked about on the previous show. So we're going with the new content today. I mean, I can talk a little bit about each one, and then I really want to get Renard talking about some of the rules designed for these, because I adore a lot of the mechanics that these guys have. So, of the three, we have Decoy 5, who is a chronicler assassin. He's what's called a shutter. He used to be assigned to taking out, let's call it, politically relevant people on behalf of the chronicler cult. But he was burned during a mission. He was set loose, and now he's out for revenge against the old handler. In game, he's a long-range sniper, and he has a really unique mechanic in that he has a little drone, like a hovering drone called Ico, who allows him to both take much more kind of daring shots over obstacles and around terrain. Also get himself out of trouble by using it to kind of escape when the enemy's gotten close and personal. So that's Decoy 5 on the left. In the middle, there's Severin. Severin is a judge. His backstory is that his mentor was led into a trap that was killed. He was killed by a bunch of clanners, Phosphorite clanners, and now he got exiled as kind of a way to suppress the information, and now he's coming back and trying to track down who it was that led him into the trap. Gameplay-wise, I find him really interesting. He is very much like a melee character, like get up in your face and start punching. He has some really fun mechanics that allow him to kind of like really charge forward ahead of the rest of the pack and be really strong out on his own. For example, he can kind of like leap into an enemy tile as like an extra part of his move. So very fun. One of his big downsides is that he is like terrified of fire because he has a very large burn on his face that was from the attack. So he is weak to fire.
But there is not a lot of fire in the core box. So
there's not a lot of fire in the
problem.
core box. So, it's probably not a problem. Don't worry about it. And then on the right, we have Dido, who is the most recently revealed from yesterday, if I remember rightly, or the day before. He is part of Severin's group, so they are allies with each other. And Dido is an apocalyptic, and he is an assassin. And he is a very contrasting to Decoy's role as like a long-range sniper. Dido is like very much like up in your face. He's going to take you out if you're ever isolated, and then move on to the next target. He is like pretty brutal in close combat, and he has a lot of like mobility to get around the map so quickly. So that's their kind of like rough description, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about on Renard's side, designing the mechanics for them, because I talk about them because I've used them and designed parts of the game around them, but Renard's the one who put them together. So
I have to remember by heart everything in the characters. It will be complicated, but yeah, I remember that we had an issue because there is a lot of judges in the operatives, and it's story driven, so it's normal because the campaign is led by the judges, and we had to give each of those operatives a unique feel. So the first one is Furbach, who has a lot of synergies and is like a support for the other operatives. And Severin is the melee guy, effectively, who can leap onto tiles. In fact, he's faster when he goes toward the enemy. He's a kind of a loner. He's better when he has no allies on his tile. And yes, he's afraid of fire, which is something he inherits from his backstory, and it can be pertinent at time. Decoy 5 is a sniper, but we have a lot of snipers in the game. There is a Neo-Libyan, for example, and we had to give him a unique feel, and hopefully he has a unique drone in the game and in the story, and it's like a pet for him. He can send it away and use it to school to scout. Liam will make fun of me.
Well, he can use Ico to scoot because he does have that ability and focus, right? Where they both move.
Yes,
they can scoot and scout.
He can also shoot things he cannot see because he can ignore the tile with echo when he's calculating line of sight. It's like a bend shot. And Dido is more is a very mobile character who can do combos by wounding opponent and then moving again and again.
They're a really cool bundle. I love this, like this lineup. Like they're all. I was so happy with the way that Renard designed them because everyone is super unique and super cool. Like Renard was saying, you know, like even though there are other snipers in the roster, each one of them manages to be super unique based on their mechanics, and like they all bring something different. So there's never a case of like, oh, it doesn't matter if I unlock this guy because this other guy does the same thing. They all achieve this goal of being like really distinct from each other in really fun ways.
We had to make a very good Decoy 5 because it's the best character in all the
Decoy
Genesis.
5 is a huge
Obviously.
fan favorite. There's probably people simping in the chat right now for him. It's it's an unfortunate. Well, it's a fortunate fact. He's very popular. He's been around for a long time, so we had to. Really make him
I'm gonna
count.
be in the Decoy 5 fan club too. I mean, when I first saw him, I fell in love with him. I was like, I'm not gonna play any other character. I just want to play him. I'm very partial to snipers, and like he's super cool as a sniper character.
He's stylish.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Now these guys just look absolutely amazing. But we are going to move on to the other 3 unlocks that that happened in the past days that I think, I have to be honest with you, I think these are some of my favorite sculpts just I've seen in general, and they're terrain sculpts. They are incredibly creative, and I think they just tell a story. So I kind of want to get into these real quick. And I want to remind everyone watching, if you have any questions for anybody here on the panel, please leave them in the comments, and we'll try to answer as many as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are part of the terrain expansion. So these 3D sculpts. The actual terrain themselves is all in the mission booklet as normal, but as daily unlocks, they're being added as the 3D sculpts. So this I actually Renard, I'm afraid, can't talk too much about because this was all my territory. Because the terrain is so tightly tied into the missions, I got kind of stuck with the goal of making these all have really cool and unique gameplay effects as well. So beyond just having like really, as you said, really great sculpts, like they're all really cool designs and really nice representations on the board, they all also have some sort of gameplay effect, obvious or otherwise. For example, there's a machine gun on the board. I'm going to give you 3 guesses as to what the operatives can do with that machine gun. But then it was a case of like using it in interesting ways. So the machine gun is there and they can use it as a powerful weapon, but it is actually, it's in like a bit of a vulnerable position when it's deployed in the mission. So it's a bit of a cost effect balance of like, if I go here and get this machine gun operational, I'll have a really powerful weapon, but will the cockroaches get there first and be able to, ambush me as I get there? So that one is a little bit obvious. But the other 2 I find have really interesting effects. So the Judgment Head, basically the borders of the Protectorate, we've got some cool scale here so you can see roughly how big they'll be on the board. They're quite substantial. The Judgment Head is something that the Protectorate uses to mark its borders. It's a representation of the Supreme Judge, who's kind of like the ruler of the Protectorate. And they basically line them up all along the border, like facing outwards from the Protectorate, as kind of a desire of like, we are going to take this land, as like a kind of a statement of what they're going to do. Of course, things have started to backfire for them, and now the Judgment Heads are a bit more of like they're coming under threat. They are just as much as they're symbols for the Protectorate citizens as like this is a symbol of safety and prosperity and progress. All of the Protectorate's enemies see this as completely the icon of their foe, and so they have a lot of incentive to try and rip these apart, dismantle them, destroy them, everything like that. And the Wraith module, I don't want to say too much about, because it's a very interesting setup in game. I'll give a little bit of the backstory. So way back about 100 years before Clan Wars is set, there was another war that racked the same patch of land against a city-state called Exalt, who were extremely technologically advanced. They were on the cusp of taking over the entire world, and they deployed a lot of their technology across the landscape. When the Protectorate eventually came out on top through some underhanded trickery that I don't really have time to get into, they destroyed a lot of the markers that Exalt left, but not all of them have been quite wiped out, and some of them still have a little bit of the power that they had 100 years ago. But I won't go too far into that right now, just because I want to let people discover what this one does, because it's quite a shock.
Doesn't want to spoil the story.
I don't want to spoil too much of it.
That's good. So, because that's perfect. Because Pablo Martin Dominguez asked, "Do the runes of Exalt have effects on the game, or is it just cover?" And which is a great question, and the answer is play and find out, I guess.
Yeah, I'll say all of the terrain has like a game effect. Like I really wanted them to be kind of like a centerpiece of like a mission when they show up. I wanted it to be like a really cool, like this is like a really nice sculpt that's been placed on a table, and also it's you're going to kind of focus your game around it somehow. So all of the terrain has game effects. Some are perhaps like relatively minor in some missions, like maybe it's just like a sort of situational bonus. Some, like an entire mission is focused around them. So yeah, absolutely, they have effects in game. You are not getting any more out of me under pain of death. Thank you.
Pain of death it shall be.
So I want to move on to talk about kind of the strict gameplay components. We've also revealed a few potential cards, which I would like to discuss and just talk a little bit about these and their function in the game.
Yeah, so the potentials packs, so we've revealed one of them, which was the Protectorate pack, which contained one potential each for the Battalions, Judges, and Chroniclers. They kind of represent you call them like the icons of the Protectorate. They're the kind of the ones that are emblematic of it. And this is a pack that gives each cult one extra potential. There will be more coming along, but you'll have to wait and see for what those end up being. I love a lot of these potentials. They're actually a really, really strong set of potentials. But I will let Renard talk more about those because Renard is the one who designed them.
So first of all, I took all the potentials that are in the TTRPG game. I kept the name and the general feeling of them, and I tried to translate them for a board game. So I had to oversimplify their effect. I have a very small space on the card. I cannot go very complicated. And for example, Humanity's Burden, I wanted something to help the healers. And when we designed the healing, we wanted to make it strategic. So to heal someone, you have to be unopposed, meaning you cannot do it if you have an opponent on the same tile. And this potential specifically remove this limitation and make a healer like a first aid healer instead of a medic. Justice for All is like a vengeance. See, if one of your pal dies, you have secured two until the end of the mission, which is very powerful. So you will lose a friend, but Secure 2 is the best skill. Secure is the best skill in the game.
Actually.
Secure 3? Well, it's
even better.
too far away. So meaning it's secure everything because it's very quasi impossible to make 4-board cheese. So you can go all in all the time and take revenge on your opponents. And Mind of the Mansion is a protection against a very annoying effect some opponents have. They can flip you against your will. And since you need an action to flip again on the other side, it can wreak havoc on your strategy and the number of actions you have in a turn. So being able to stay in focus is very powerful, especially for a chronicler who was more often a very good focus side. They try to stay focused and concentrated.
And then for people who are new to DEGENESIS, what is a potential? Like how are these how are this in broadly used?
It's a skill. It's a new skill, and it's the word we used in DEGENESIS, the TTRPG, and we kept it for the flair. So potentials are skills. It's new abilities the operatives can win during the game. The potentials in our system are actually three things. It's experience points because when you win, you have a reward and then you gain potentials, so they count as experience point. There are new abilities, like I said, and there are also hit points because when you are hit and wounded by an enemy, you lose one of these potentials, and you have to flip them. On the other side, there is a flesh wound. So with the same game element, we have three system: the experience, the skills, and the hit points. That's what we meant when we wanted to something streamlined and elegant for the game.
The potentials are one of my favorite systems from the game. It's such an elegant way to display so many things, because even when you're just looking around the table and you're looking at, you know, either your fellow operatives or the operatives that are trying to kill you, you get such a clear measure of like, are they healthy? Are they damaged? Here's one that I really need to like focus in on because I want to take him out.
Yeah.
Here's one that's like managed to escape unscathed. Like, it's so clean. I love it so much.
Liam being the hostile more often, yeah, he targets the people with a lot. Yeah. he just look at the red on the table because the other side of the potentials is red. It's a flesh wound, and if he sees a lot of red, he knows it's where he has to
That's
attack.
a target. That's a target locked in.
Right, at the same time, it's such a visceral thing as well, rather than seeing like, oh, okay, I level up, I have now extra 5 hit points. Like, this represents your skill and your capability to survive on the battlefield. Like, it's such a streamlined and useful system it's integrated in the character in such a way where when they get damaged, they lose the ability to use the skill, and hopefully they don't take too many wounds to discard the skill entirely, right? So
And
it has that. Yeah.
They have to choose it, and it adds a strategic decision when you are wounded. What do you want to lose? And
Right.
sometimes it's heartbreaking because they know they will need something to end the mission, and they lose it. Too bad. It's dark, little, gritty, and finishing.
There we go. You slipped it in. Nice one.
Rob, who has been very active on the boards today. Hi, Rob. Asks, can there be an empty potential card so that I can relate more? And I think this is that. I mean, I personally would make mine called God mode, where I automatically get to destroy all enemies instantly. Little homebrew there, but I feel like this game is pretty tightly designed, though.
I think what Rob means is like he has no potential, so
Yeah.
he. It's a little self-deprecating, Rob. Everybody has potential.
I'm sure it's wrong, because at least he has humor.
I think you're right. Like, I mean, this is pretty much all credit to Renard, but like there's very little like fat in the game. You know, it's very much like everything that is needed is there, and there are very little things that are not needed. You know, like managing to pack 3 systems, like 3 subsystems into one card is, I think, pretty impressive when it comes to streamlining a game. And a lot of the other systems have the same sort of like condensed nature, where it's like, yeah, your items, they both function as like a punishment for botching. They're another way of increasing your skill, and they're also ways that you can hit people, that sort of thing. Like, it's all very, very tightly designed. And Renard's doesn't have enough of an ego to talk about it, so I will.
But at first we had a ban on tokens, so we had to be very creative on the rules.
We had to be very efficient with our use of game mechanics because there was a moratorium on new tokens and little bits and components. It was a firm you cannot add them unless they are absolutely necessary. So we got creative. Okay, let's move on from this.
Well, luckily we have something new to show. Well, new for today. This is today's reveals, today's unlocks on the campaign, and I can't wait to get into depth on these.
Yeah, so today unlocked. So in every pledge, no matter what it is, we have Lucia, our Helvetic, and there is the 3D sculpt of the brood nest. So I'll start with talking. In fact, no, I will let Renard talk a little bit about Lucia, and then I'll talk about the brood nest.
Lucia was complicated because I wanted a system that uses explosives and satchels, and we have a very you can see on the equipment card the items there is very few room for the rules, and it's a design decision, and I cannot make long text, and to design explosives it was kind of a puzzle for me, but in the end I managed to do it. So we have Helvetic, which is already a very strong opponent because it has a harness, which is one of the best armor in the game, and a Trailblazer, which is one of the best rifle in the game too. Already in the TTRPG, so it's a legacy we have from the RPG. And but this one is a sapper, so she's a user of explosives, and it is her specialty. She can lay means behind her, but she has to time it correctly because it will explode at the start of the next round. So she is a very strategic character and very hard to use, I think. It's a very big learning curves on Lucia. But she's inherently strong because her stats are good.
She has a really fascinating interplay with some of the hostiles things. So for the most part, the hostile is the one who's always withholding information from the operatives. But Lucia actually manages to take that back a little bit because basically at the start of every game, she can draw a certain number of payloads. So these are her explosives. And some of the payloads are live and they are, as normal, they explode at a certain time. But some of them are they're dummy explosives. And basically she can lay down a payload and she doesn't have to reveal to the hostile what kind she's laid down. And at a certain point, it will flip when, the hostile's units run over it. And maybe it's a dummy or maybe it's a live explosive. And the hostile now has to deal with this angle of, wait a minute, what's here? So the shoe's a little bit on the other foot in terms of the information game. So I find her really fun. She's just a really fascinating and cool character in general, like properly badass. So
she has a very, very good backstory too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then the brood nest. The landscape as the operatives kind of extend further and further out from the protectorate's borders, the landscape gets a lot more hostile and dangerous, and it's riddled with these tunnels that run under the surface. And the cockroaches use these as a network to traverse the battlefield quickly. And the brood nest is an exit to these tunnels. And the way it basically functions in game is that it's kind of a rapid spawn point. So the hostile gets to kind of have these swarms of units coming up from underground to join the fight. And the operatives have to deal with this, they have to destroy it because otherwise they'll be completely overwhelmed eventually. If only, hint, hint, there were some operatives that were really good at planting explosives that are better at destroying buildings and structures. So
it's a good combination for a rival.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, it's a really fun combination of a reveal. The brood nests they're very much like when they appear on the field, it's like oh god, we've got to get rid of this quickly. Yeah, very exciting, and I love the sculpt too. It's a really like it kind of gets the cockroaches like style of just kind of slapping things together and making sure they work. And it's also a cool thing to imagine, like, you know, kind of chucking a dynamite stick in and the tunnel collapsing. So super cool reveals.
Yeah, I mean,
It reminds me of the
destroy a
Zergs in StarCraft.
I mean, that's
better
kind of
to-
the. Go on, Kenneth.
No. It was like a missed opportunity. Who better to destroy the brood nest than the demolitionist like Lucia, right?
Exactly, right? It's a perfect match. And yeah, like the Zerg is kind of like a good analogy for the way that the cockroaches work. You know, they're absolutely like a swarm of just incessantly spawning units that you can't get rid of unless you kind of take out their nest. And that's what this is. So yeah, super awesome reveals today. Super excited for people to see how these are used.
No, I think it's great. So we're going to move from these reveals to a huge reveal. I want to say to everyone, keep the questions coming, please. They're excellent questions. We're going to try to get to as many as we can at the end, but we want to make sure that we have enough time to talk about this expansion.
Ta-da!
Woo!
Yeah, so this is the first of the big secrets that we'd had for this campaign. This is the first of the gameplay expansions that is present in the Apocalypse Deluxe Pledge. The first hostile expansion for DEGENESIS Clan Wars, the Phosphorites expansion. So this one is huge. This is like I'm so happy that I get to finally talk about this because I love this one. So the Phosphorites expansion adds the Phosphorites to the game. They add an entire new clan. They have new mechanics. They have new gameplay styles. It's an entire new dimension for the hostile to explore. And they also come complete with their own campaign for the operatives to run through. So their own missions, their own, a new ending for that campaign, where the operatives get to be faced with the Phosphorites. So I see chat going absolutely crazy. So
chat is going insane. I think we made a lot of people happy.
We might have broke them. So I'll talk a little bit about who the Phosphorites are. I think the next slide has all of their minis, so that would be a good one to put up. Yeah. So 29 miniatures in this box. So they're all the Phosphorites. The Phosphorites are another clan that are fighting alongside the cockroaches, and where the cockroaches have their sort of iconic aspect of massive swarms and unending assaults, the Phosphorites are, as implied by their name, all about fire and phosphorus. They worship like white phosphorus. They kind of burn themselves and anoint themselves with it. And a lot of their mechanics, which Renar will talk about in a moment because they're really, really cool, revolve around fire and sort of toxic smog and really like taking the operatives and denying them space on the map and denying them their long sight lines, and just burning them to ash. So I'll let Renar talk a little bit about some of the mechanics that the Phosphorites get access to, and then we can go through some of the extra bits and bobs that are in the expansion.
Okay. Well, there is fire in the core box. For example, a Schweitzer have a flamethrower, a Spitfire. And the rules for the fire are very simple. And in the expansion Phosphorite, I added a whole set of rules to handle fire and their consequences. So if you have the expansion, you can use the rules also for the core box. So fire is like an area effect. So when the tile is on fire, if you're still on it at the end of the round, you will take damage. And it's kind of very dangerous. It creates smoke and a cut line of sight. and it can burn forest too, because there is forest in these expansions. So it's a character in and for itself. It's a very important aspect of the Phosphorite expansions. It's the main tool of the Phosphorites, that and human sacrifice. So so this is why I said there is not a lot of fire in the core box for Severin to face, but in the expansion Phosphorites, he will have a hard time going through.
He's going to have a bit of a rough one. Yeah.
Yeah, it will be complicated. And the Phosphorites, they're used to this. They are they're happy dwelling in the flaming forest, so they have no problem. They are resistant to chemicals. They are resistant to fire. They use weapons that don't need line of sight. For example, there is a mortar team. They just aim on the tile far away and hope to hit something. And they are very good at melee. So all the snipers, the long range operatives will be in a big bind in these expansions. They will have to find some exotic way of handle things, while screaming Phosphorites will throw themselves at them, hoping to die in the fight.
It's really like I love the way that this expansion kind of, the cockroaches are very much like they're like the savage low-tech clan, right? And with this expansion, we're kind of slightly starting to even the playing field. The Phosphorites have like they're still very much wrapped in this sort of angle of spiritualism and ritualism, but they've started to use like long-ranged weapons. The phosphor launcher that's on screen is actually a phosphorite weapon. So maybe there's an opportunity for the hostile the operatives to get a hold of this from somewhere. And they do a lot more like building with scrap and things and so on. So using what's there on the terrain, building like their like altars and sundials and so on. So they're a really exciting like upgrade and so on for the hostile to use. And just because it's come in very quickly, and I might as well mention it because it's on screen, the terrain items, so the Phosphorites expansion comes with 3 new terrain pieces, and they are automatically 3D. They are all going to be 3D sculpts. And they are some very cool terrain items. I'm very excited. And I guess I'll go over some of the other components beyond just the miniatures since we're talking about it. So the Phosphorites expansion contains a new hostile screen that contains all of the units for the hostile to use. It contains 14 new field sectors, so there's an entire new map theme, which you can see in the background here as the operatives kind of swing into the Phosphorite territory on their journey back towards the Protectorate. I don't want to spoil too much about the story, but it's venturing into Phosphorite territory. It contains 15 new potentials, so there's 1 per cult, along with a few extra for planners that are not bound to a cult. There are 10 all-new items specific to this expansion. There are 15 champion cards, so that's the stages that the champions use. There are 3 champions, and they're all very exciting. There are 29 miniatures, as I mentioned, and we also have 9 calendar cards, which are a new mechanic jumping off of the swarm cards from the core box. So let's continue on through the expansion, and we'll keep talking about it. I just kind of rattled it all off, but I'm so excited to talk about some of the stuff here. So let's keep going. Yeah, there we go. I love these minis. They are so cool. The Phosphorites have tamed and are riding reindeer into battle as these lancers and as like sort of champions. So on the left we have one of the Phosphorite legions, a reindeer lancer, and I will let people kind of focus in on what's at the tip of that spear, because that's an artillery shell strapped to a stick. They are, let's call it that they have explosive impact. And then on the right, we have one of our champions for this expansion. This is Tetrafor, who is, I mean, a really, really impressive and powerful champion. I'm very excited for his mission. I think he's going to kill a few operatives.
Oh,
I think
he might. He might.
yeah, he is absolutely going to kill a few operatives, actually. And then on display, we have one of our other champions. So we have Sakara, who is not mounted, but is just as deadly. She has a lot of like area effect, like damage that she can do. She has a phosphor launcher and uses like a lot of grenades and pyres and so on. Very powerful. Tetrafor and Sakara are Bale Lords. That's kind of our equivalent of the Cockroach Kings for the Phosphorites. They have kind of this genetic quirk from birth where the phosphorus kind of has maybe like influenced them somehow and given them a little bit more resistance to it, and they are kind of worshipped by the rest of the Phosphorites. So very, very exciting. I'm super excited for all these. Like the mechanics of them are great. I think maybe we have a few more on the next slide. Yeah, here's the mortar team that Renard was talking about. So the Phosphorites often use these long-range mortar shells to kind of pepper the battlefield with smog to kind of camouflage their assault, soften up targets before they move in with the rest of their units. And similarly, the war totem on the right is the third of our champions. Basically, behind him, he trails this smog of toxic fumes. And if he gets up close, you know, you're going to end up in that smog. If you want to try and hit him in melee, you're going to have to find a way of either, you know, enduring the fact that you're going to be choking on phosphorus fumes every round, or you're going to have to find a way of like mitigating that effect.
There are ways.
There are ways. You've got to find them first. But yeah, super, super powerful units, and very, very exciting to have.
What's the English for encensoir?
Oh yeah, okay, great. We have the rest of the legions here as well. So I'm not going to go through every single one, just because I want to leave something up for people looking at the campaign page, which, by the way, as soon as this live stream is done, this will be live on the campaign page and added to your pledge if you have the Apocalypse Deluxe. If not, it'll be available for you to look at, and then you can get an idea of what sort of things we're working with for the other surprise expansion. But yeah, so it came up in chat. So the things hanging off are like Thuribal's sensors, the things that are like trailing the smog behind him, just completely poisoning the air and laying down this big line of smog that obscures the approach of all the other Phosphorites. So kind of like you really want to get rid of him first, but also it's going to be pretty tough to get rid of him because you won't have line of sight on him because he's hidden in smog. And if you want to get up close, well, you're going to have to be dealing with all this poison that you're breathing in. So super, super exciting lineup. And I'm allowed to say that because Renard did everything on that, and I just used it after the fact.
Yeah, that's for me the most inspiring clans. I love the Phosphorites personally. The illustrations, green. The green and black is a very good theme.
The color scheme is incredible. They're so much fun. They're one of the things that I kind of find really fascinating. So the Phosphorites orient themselves around their calendar. They have a huge reliance on their calendar. They have so many like specific days and alignments and arrangements of times. And in this campaign, one of the things that we wanted to think about is in the core box, the hostile gets swarm cards. So this represents, you know, the cockroaches kind of having like a sudden surge or some sort of special effect coming in. And we started off with like, okay, you know, the Phosphorites will get swarm cards too, but we wanted something a little bit more thematic. So we've gone with calendar cards. And basically at the start of each mission, the hostile gets to decide what day it is. And depending on what day it is, there's an ongoing effect that lasts throughout the mission, depending on things like what round it is, or certain conditions they can set up during the mission, almost like giving themselves a little side quest to get a bonus. As an example, they might have a special effect that only triggers on prime numbered rounds. That sort of thing runs throughout the campaign. And it's like a kind of unique aspect of the clan. So super, super excited for these guys to be on display. Super, super excited to reveal what we've been cooking with the question marks on the campaign page. And I really hope people are excited to keep an eye out for this one. And if there's any questions about this expansion, I'm super happy to take them at this point, because I'm sure there are a few.
Is there any way we can talk about like how much like gameplay time is added to this expansion?
Absolutely. So the campaign it adds 8 new missions to the game. Without going too into depth on what it contains and how it links to the core box, the way that this campaign is set up is that the operatives are subject to a massive retaliation from the Phosphorites at the start that they have no hope of defeating. And the campaign takes the form of kind of chasing down this Phosphorite horde and chipping away at them to kind of bring them down to a manageable level until you reach this final confrontation at the end. And hopefully, if you've managed to do enough, you will be able to bring them down. If not, well, too bad, try again. So based on 8 missions, you probably want to run it twice. You're looking at like maybe another like 20-ish hours of content, along with, you know, the extra items, potentials, and so on added to the game. Of course, the sectors will also be available for people to use to build their own missions and maps and so on. So I'm very excited to see those. I adore the way that the maps on this expansion are set up. So Renard designed the maps. I guess that's another thing that we can talk about Renard doing. He put together all of the tiles and so on for the maps and added the forests mechanic. So the Phosphorite campaign has their territory is much more heavily forested than most of the previous core box's content. So to add some mechanics for that, some tiles on the map are marked as forests, which obscure vision because you can't see into them too well, and they can also be set on fire and start burning. And that then creates like a permanently burning for the duration of the mission obstacle that the different factions will have to work around. So having them is super, super exciting. Like they add like a new dimension to the map, and it means that there's like a new level of like trying to work out like, you know, can I hide behind this forest? Do I want to maybe try and set this forest on fire to block a push that's coming? It adds like a really cool new dimension.
Yeah, because in the core box, the maps were all about elevation. Like you had something to climb, something were very hard to reach. And on this expansion, it's more the line of sight that will be a problem. You're near a forest, you don't know what's behind it because you cannot scout something you cannot see. And in this game, everything that has not been scouted is very dangerous. So it's we wanted.
I mean, especially in this expansion, I think.
Yeah,
there's a lot of really dangerous threats that you could run into.
But like no line of sight sounds like a perfect job for my man Decoy 5.
So yeah, what you cannot see is what will kill you in this expansion.
So we've got a question here, and I apologize, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, but the question is, how is the campaign placed in time? Before, after, or at the same time as the one in the core box?
So I guess I can say this. The Phosphorite campaign is a direct sequel to the core box campaign. The mission booklet contains instructions for if you finished the core box campaign, you can start the Phosphorite campaign. And then there's also an option, if you just want to play the Phosphorite campaign, you just go straight in. So it has that option available if you want to start it. But yeah, this campaign is a direct sequel, and the events of the core box campaign very closely lead into what's going on here. So we kind of wanted to provide this cool, like, you've made it through, you've reached out into the depths of the enemy territory, and now you've got to find your way back, which is going to be a lot easier said than done.
And there's a couple questions here about where they can actually see this and maybe play this live. What are the current plans to have this at conventions or on display anywhere?
So I guess I'll say that I don't know exactly where we'll end up. Unfortunately, I'm not the one who plans the flights. I will say that we had an absolutely fantastic time at Luca last year. It was a wonderful time. We really got a chance to feel some appreciation for the game. We had a really wonderful community member, Hazan, Nicola, who might be in chat or might be lurking around, but he really helped us out by running the game a bunch. And we had a great time. So if we end up back there, I would be really happy. I would love to show it off. In terms of, I can't say much else. I don't know exactly, but I mean, I'm super happy to get the game out. So if we can end up somewhere, I'm sure we will.
And I can safely say that as plans firm up, it will be posted, I'm sure, over on your websites and socials, as well as
100%.
ours at CMON's. We do our best to make sure people know where we're going to be. And certainly we love for people to get their hands on this game because it's just a great experience. I think we have time for one more question.
Can it be mine? I actually do have a personal question.
Kenneth has a question.
I mean, yeah, I'm a fan, so I can ask questions. So actually, I wanted to know because I've not seen the Phosphorite campaign book yet. It's a surprise to me as well. You mentioned that this is the end of the core box. How does character progression play into this campaign? Do I have to
So
yeah.
what I'll say is that the Phosphorites are I would say a more lethal threat than the cockroaches. So we definitely had this idea of okay, this is not for raw starting operatives. You really need to kind of have a little bit of gearing up before this starts, because otherwise they'll kill you. They'll kill you. They'll put you on a sacrificial altar and they'll burn you until you're ash. Yeah, so character progression wise, the way in that is not including the core box it kind of bumps up your characters a little bit to provide a little bit of extra survivability, and hopefully you get through the first mission if I've managed to work it out rightly. If not, then too bad.
So part of the experience.
Phosphorites is going to be quite an intense expansion for the operatives, and not all of them are going to survive it. So make sure to bring backup and a few. There won't be much left for a coffin, but you could have a few jars or something like that, right?
Huan.
Well, I think that is all the time we have for today. I want to thank Liam Renard for joining us. Kenneth, always good to see you. So that wraps our DEGENESIS Clan Wars mid-campaign review. For updates for future shows, we should have one more live stream covering a lot more. I mean, you thought today was great. I think the next show next week is going to be.
I think next time we're not even going to have a chance to do a review of the unlocks or anything. It's just going to be straight in. It's going to be a big one, so I'm really excited for that one. I'm really excited. if there's any other questions, of course, people can reach us on GameFriend comments or Discord. We'll be, more than happy to answer questions about the campaign now that we can finally talk about it. I'm so happy. I've been holding my tongue because I really want to talk about some of the mechanics in here, and I've not been able to. So
I can be both. I am.
So yeah, thank you so much for having us on stream again. It's been so nice to be here. Really looking forward to next week. Really looking forward to seeing everyone pop up in comments and so on.
That was a perfect
burn
hint
bright
of
or
what
burn
is to
out.
come. We cannot wait to show off a little bit more when we come back next week. So remember to subscribe and follow us on GameFound Campaign. Again, the link is in the description below, and we will see everyone on the live stream next week.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for having us. We'll see you.
Au revoir.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.